does that automatically. I didn't realize that.
Learning new things.
I know. Yeah. The IT department was very generous, and I logged in as them. So I feel I have a lot of buttons that I don't always have. But I would say we usually start a couple of minutes late, Susan, just so you know,
Sure.
to give people a little bit of time
Absolutely.
to kind of settle in. I know we've gone back and forth about the best time to offer these webinars. Is a weekend better? Is a weeknight better? Afternoon versus evening? And of course, we realize there's no one time that works perfectly for everyone.
Yep.
So Thursday has been our traditional night for quite a while, but certainly there are families who will never be free on a Thursday night, which, is why we're so glad we can record it.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, if you find that magic day or time, let us know.
I was going to say, I bet you guys run into a similar, we're like, what date would work best? Well, let's try a couple of things.
You do. Yeah. And counselors, especially, if they'll get frustrated if they don't get a good attendance, and they'll say, okay, are other schools doing a different day, a different time? And what do you see that works the best? And of course, with schools, it's interesting. Wednesday nights seem to be the night that there are not a lot of like sporting events or activities. And so our calendar fills up on Wednesdays really quickly.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That there would be like a pattern amongst even schools that are in different districts and not necessarily
Yes.
each other about those things.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we've just done Thursday. Our program started in 2015, and as soon as the workshops began, they were on Thursdays. So some of it, I think, is just that routine and habit of this is the day that people are used to check their calendars to see if there is one.
Yeah.
And I think some of it was just like you're saying, kind of general scheduling of people were saying, well, I have Bible study on this night, or weekends aren't good for these reasons. So I think we've offered last year, especially because we went virtual with everything, we offered some on Tuesdays. We offered both during the month, and useful for families for whom Thursday is never going to work. But we totally understand evening is a very it's such a valuable time for families, right? You've been busy all day. So people have been working or at school or doing after school things and all of our responsibilities. We know that evening is a very valuable time. So we are grateful for whoever shows up, and we're happy to show the recording to the people who were able to make it.
Yep, for sure.
Susan, before all of life changed, March 2020, were you all doing anything virtually before then, like resources wise or anything like that, recordings, publishing out, sort of stuff like that?
Very, very rarely. We had a relationship with a couple of the virtual schools in Indiana already. So and they would just do virtually. Indiana Connections Academy is one I can think of off the top of my head. But other than that, and then like I mentioned, there were very few number of schools that would actually record our presentation when we came into the school to share later. But we had to really kind of regroup and say, okay, how can we best do this and continue to serve these schools and these students, and really pushing to get our contact information out there. Because I think something that sets us apart is that, we're going to come into the school anytime you'd ask and do a presentation for you or a FAFSA workshop. But the key is that you've got access to us after that. It's not like you're just going to see us at a financial aid night and that's it. We want you to reach out. We want you to call, email. I will meet families for coffee. I've gone to their house. That's rare, but I mean, so I do think it's what sets us apart. They just understanding and knowing they've got a free resource as they go through the process, not just that evening.
For sure. Yeah, that's so valuable. I know we've had families reach out to contacts at InvestEd. I have filled out FAFSA before, but my entire life has changed since the last time I filled it out. And I'm really not sure, how that impacts how I need to be filling this out in a way that's accurate. But I don't even know if I have all my documents. And we're always quick to be like, we totally hear you. That is stressful. Let's get you connected with someone who can help walk you through it. And that such a relief for people. I mean, I totally see how it can be overwhelming.
Mhm.
Have
Yeah.
somebody to kind of walk you through it a little bit.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So how long have you been there, Susan? How long have you been at Invested?
It will be 8 years next month.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That's
Wow.
exciting. Has that both flown by and been super slow, or sped
Yeah,
through the whole time?
a little bit of both. I've had a lot of life changes too during that time. This job I was going through a divorce, and this job was exactly what I needed. I didn't quite know it at the time, but looking back now, the part of the busyness helped, and then helping people so I could get the focus off of me and help other people, and maybe, you know, not think about what was going on for me sometimes. It's sometimes it seems like yesterday, and sometimes it feels like it's been a lifetime ago.
So much has gone on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can only fathom the changes you've seen just even through the application process and all that goes into this.
Oh gosh, yes.
8 years ago
Yeah.
to now. I was just thinking when Kelsey, when you were mentioning that, I was like, oh my gosh, the last FAFSA I felt that was 15 years ago.
Right.
So
And
I
now
can't
there's
even
there's a
imagine.
mobile app, and there's all kinds
Right.
of new things that like weren't available when you and I were filling out our FAFSAs, or even, 5 years ago when I was helping people fill out. It changes. So it's good to kind of stay on top of it, but also have somebody to help you not get too overwhelmed by it.
For sure.
Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I'll do the introductions and we can kind of get going, and friends can join us as they're able to. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening or whenever you're watching this. My name is Kelsey Hambleton. I'm the manager of the Mid-North Promise program here at the Children's Museum. And we are joined tonight by Susan Mayberry of Invest Ed. So we're going to talk a little bit more about just high-level college preparedness, things to expect. We're going to touch on financial aid. So looking forward to hearing from Susan. And then at the end, there will be some time for questions. Please feel free to put those in the chat. Nate and I can monitor the chat. And we'll do kind of a wrap up at the end. But Susan, excited to hear from you and hear your presentation. And please feel free to let us know if you need anything, but we'll let you take it away.
Great. Thank you. Well, thanks so much for having me. I will go ahead and share my screen here. Everybody see that okay? Awesome.
Looks good.
All right. So just really quickly before I dive into the presentation, just want to introduce InvestEd in case you haven't heard of us before. We are a not-for-profit. We are based in the Indianapolis area. And what we do is typically travel around the state. We love the face-to-face meetings, but we've obviously been doing a lot of virtual meetings as well, helping students and families through this whole college planning and financial aid process. So at any point in time, you would reach out to us. This is a free service for all families in Indiana. We're not going to try to sell you anything or charge you a fee. I'll make sure that you've got some time to even take a screenshot of our contact information, but just make sure that you have that before you leave here and before the end of the presentation. So just to sort of give you a little snapshot, this is beginning to end what we do as far as helping families, starting from the beginning to that investigating career paths. Really what I'm kind of starting with tonight, this presentation starts with. And then even for folks who have, they're out of school, maybe they've got some student loan debt, and they just have questions about whether or not they are managing or handling that in the best way. We can talk with folks about that too. So again, beginning to end, we are happy to help. Here's what I'm going to chat about, probably for the next, I'd say 45 minutes. And again, like Kelsey said, put questions in the chat, and at the end, we can address any of those questions that you might have. Just one little note there about the FAFSA. I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to go through line by line or screen by screen, so don't panic. All right, so let's talk about the benefits of continuing our education. And as parents, I want you to think about these next few slides as conversation starters with your student or your child. Education is any training or education after high school. I'm going to use the word college a lot, but that's what I'm referring to. So regardless of the path, what education you choose to get, it's important for everyone. And this graph hopefully will show that a little bit. The gold bars are showing weekly earnings based on level of education. So what we would say is that education is important. When we talk to students about this, we say, hey, do you understand the more you learn, the more you earn? So the higher level of education, the more earning potential you have. The blue dots are representing unemployment rates. So the more education you have, the less likely you are to be unemployed. And these are not just benefits that aren't things that benefit us just personally, but they benefit our families, they benefit our communities, and even globally, all of these things have an impact. So we share these numbers, these statistics, just to show you what kind of motivates us to do what we do in the state of Indiana. We're trying to make a positive impact on these numbers. We know that 70% of college graduates have college-related debt. It's very common, it's very normal. The way we explain it is sometimes you have to invest a little bit of money to get a return on that investment. The key is, though, being wise about that debt. Here's what bothers us the most. 50% of those college graduates are surprised by how much they owe. It's really easy to take out student loans, and people do it all the time, honestly, whether they need to or not. And then when you're in school, you graduate or leave school, you go through this process called exit counseling, and that's where you're shown your loan balance or the debt that you have. And 50% of those students look at that number, that debt, and don't even remember borrowing it, don't know where it came from. And we don't want that to happen to any family, any student we ever talk to. We want you to understand that if you are borrowing money to help pay for your education, you know exactly how much, and you know what that looks like as far as how it impacts your future budget. So let me just throw some numbers out there to give you some perspective. In our country, in the United States, the average student loan debt is almost $38,000. That's a monthly payment of about $400 a month for at least 10 years. In Indiana, we're at like 29.2. So that's the average loan debt for folks who live in Indiana, which is probably closer to $300, $350 a month. So keeping that kind of in the back of your mind as you are planning to get an education after high school, those numbers should kind of be there in the back of your mind as you're looking at, where am I going to go to school? How much am I going to spend? How much money am I going to make after I get out? And I'm going to go into a little more detail with you about those things here in just a minute. Here's just a little trivia for you. Student loan debt is actually higher than credit card debt in this country. So if you add up all the Discover, American Express, MasterCard, Visa, all of that debt, add it all up, student loan debt is still higher. It's actually $1.5 trillion. Yes, that was with a TR. That's the loan debt in this country. All right, so let's talk about how we can minimize that debt and what planning we can do ahead of time that will help that. So choosing a career path, it's that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And as you're looking at that, finding the right fit to pursue that career when we get out of high school, having conversations again with your student about, well, what are you interested in? What are you good at? What are your strengths? And finding resources for them, free resources that they can maybe do some self-interest inventories, finding their strengths, maybe things they're not so good at, to help point in a career path or career direction. What are your goals? So we always want to be setting short-term and long-term goals. So thinking about, hey, where would you like to live when you are all grown up and you've got a house of your own? What kind of house would you like to live in? So just thinking about different types of goals as we go through our high school career and then beyond. So those are great conversations. Here are some things that we recommend you encourage your student to do while they're in school. The first thing would be job shadowing. So when your student is talking to you about a specific career, specific job, help them seek out opportunities to spend some time with somebody who does that job day in and day out. I will never forget when my daughter came to me in, I think it was about the 8th grade, and she said, "Mom, I think I want to be a hairdresser." And I was like, "Okay, that's great." Well, one of my good friends does my hair. And so I went to her and I said, "Hey, could she spend a few days with you in your shop?" I wanted her to understand that it was more than just doing hair. It was also about running a business. It was also about customer service. You're dealing with people. So just wanted her to spend some time with somebody who did that job day in and day out. Well, she was 13, 14 years old at the time. She changed her mind, which that's okay, right? That job shadowing can either affirm for us, yes, this is absolutely the path I want to take, or maybe it says, hey, I think I need to look in a different direction. Volunteering is another great way to explore and think about career paths. First of all, volunteering is great to do in your community. You need to be involved and you need to be giving back. It looks really good on scholarship applications and college admissions applications. So this is sort of twofold, beneficial to you in that way, but can also maybe help you think about what you're interested in. For example, maybe you volunteer at the animal shelter and it helps you understand you maybe want to be a vet. So things like that. Internships, we understand that those are not as common for high school students. If you find one, absolutely take advantage of it, but more in college, internships become available. And there's a statistic that showed employers that were looking at job applicants, so seeking to hire people, looking at their resumes, 80% of them wanted to see internship experience on a resume, but only 8% of those job applicants actually had that experience. So that's a great way to set yourself apart from other people applying for those jobs. All right, so those are our practical things, hands-on things we can do as we're researching career path. I want to share a couple of online resources, online tools that will help as you're researching and looking at career paths. I would tell you any free resource out there is perfectly fine, whatever you're comfortable with. I would just say you don't need to pay to do this kind of research. This is one that we like. Again, it's free. It's called My Next Move. And you can do searches in different ways on this website, looking at careers with keywords. So what do you want to do? Be a doctor? Do you want to build? Do you want to write? Things like that. You can also search through different industries. So looking at a specific industry, like say education, and it will show you all of the different types of jobs available within that industry. If you're not sure, or even if you do think you know, take the little quiz. Tell us what you like to do. Based on the way you answer those questions, it will then show you career paths that might be a fit for you. And I say, even if you think you're certain what career path, take the quiz and see if the way you answered the questions, that career path is listed as one of those options. I think it's an interesting exercise to do. So also on this website, once you get into actually looking at specific careers, it will show you some additional information, such as how much education do you need to have in order to get into this job or this career. For a student that really doesn't like school, they've got to get a bachelor's degree, a 4-year degree, or even beyond. We might want to rethink that. My son, as an example, never really liked school too much. Every once in a while, he'd say, "Mom, I think I want to be a teacher and coach." And I would say, "I think you'd be great at that, but you understand that you have to have a 4-year college degree to do that." And he'd say, "Well, I'm not going to do that then." Eventually that might happen, right? But just having that understanding, how long are we going to be in school in order to get into this career? What's the job outlook? So is this job going to be around in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And then looking at average salary. And this kind of goes back to those numbers I shared with you earlier about the average student loan debt and monthly payment. based on the average salary that you could earn in this job or this career, is that a match or a fit with what your potential loan debt might be? So again, keeping those numbers in the back of your mind. I always tell students an extreme example with this. We talk about Notre Dame. My husband loves Notre Dame football, but it's a really expensive school. It costs about $65,000 a year to go there. And when I talk with students, for example, that maybe want to go into social work, my daughter was looking into that, and it's a great career. She wanted to help people, specifically kids, but they would tell you that right out of college, they don't make a whole lot of money. So it doesn't really make sense to pursue an education in social work and go to a school like Notre Dame that costs that much, unless of course you're getting a free ride, which doesn't happen very often. All right, here's another resource that's online. And this one, I will tell you, my son that doesn't really like school, this is a great resource for him. He's been using this since the senior year of high school, looking at the advanced manufacturing. So here's what this is. Indiana Next Level Jobs is a program the state created where they identified 5 different industries, and you see them there on the slide, that actually need skilled trained workers quickly in the state of Indiana. And so what they've done is there's a grant called the Workforce Ready Grant that funds certifications in these fields. So for example, if you would look at building and construction, you would see certificates for things like electricians and plumbers and carpenters. Health and life sciences, there's certificates for massage therapists or dental assistant. So it's a quicker, shorter education or training period to get you into a high-paying job quickly. So it's a great resource. So if you've got a student that's not really interested in maybe that 4-year college degree, have them look into this. And the good news is that a lot of those certificates are credit bearing, meaning that if they decide later they want to continue their education and say get a 2-year degree, those credits will transfer into that degree. Here's another one, just more information to do a little research. This is through the Department of Workforce Development. It is Indiana in-demand jobs. And so it will show you jobs that are in demand within the state, how much education you need to have in order to get into that job or career, and then what the average salary looks like. And as students are going through high school, this can be helpful as they're planning their classes throughout high school and taking appropriate ones to kind of help them along into that path. So those are resources to research career. Let's talk about then looking at different programs or different colleges or institutions where we can go get that certificate or that degree. We have a couple of them that we like. Again, they're free. The first one is called College Navigator. You'll see a list of things there that you can find on that website about different programs, different schools, financial aid, tuition and fees. That's what parents want to know about, right? How much is this going to cost us? Enrollment, how big is the school? What's the size of it? What are the admissions requirements, grades and test scores you need to get into that school? Do they offer the major or program I want to study? And then if the student is thinking about living on campus, it'll even give you information about campus security or safety. The other one, and I wouldn't recommend one over the other, they're both free, they're both good resources, is through the U.S. Department of Education. It's called College Scorecard. I think you'll find some of the information might overlap that you've found on College Navigator, but it'll also show you some additional information that maybe you didn't find. So again, great resources as we are looking at colleges, programs, institutions. I tell students, get on to these sites and do some research before you talk to an admissions rep that comes and visits your high school. Go on a college visit and go to the college campus, or even do a college fair. Because when you talk to these people then and ask questions, they're going to realize that you've done a little research about their institution to be able to have a conversation with them. So we talk a whole lot about finding the right fit, and really that's 3 categories. It should fit first academically, making sure again it offers the program major you want to study, what other opportunities do they offer, Does your student talk about maybe wanting to study abroad? Is that something that that school offers? And of course, do they have the grades and test scores they need to get into that school? Socially, this is why campus visits are so important. Making sure that it is a social, or even maybe a better term is a personal fit. What about housing options? Do freshmen have to live on campus? Different things like that. Are you allowed to have a car on campus? So a social or personal fit for you. And then finally, financially, making sure that program or school is affordable. And we're talking big picture. So this isn't like, oh yeah, we can swing for semester, but this is the duration of that program. Is it financially a fit for our family? Changing majors, changing schools can add on extra time, which can add on extra money or debt to complete that degree. Now, what I don't want you to think is that you've got to have it all figured out, can't change your major when you enter school your freshman year. That's not it at all. Over 80% of students change their major at least one time. You just want to do research up front so that you're not changing your major multiple times, or even changing schools or programs that it sets you back and delays the time it would take you to get that degree or that certificate. So let me just define for you what it means to be on time. So it's basically 30 credit hours an academic year. And what you're seeing in the example here is fall and spring semester, 15 credit hours per semester. Now you can add summer term into there as well, into that academic year. So maybe it's 15 hours in the fall, 12 in the spring, you pick up your last 3 in the summer. That can take a little planning ahead, but summer term is part of that academic year to be on time. And the state of Indiana thinks it's so important, they actually reward or incentivize students financially. If your student happens to be a 21st century scholar, they do have to complete 30 credit hours each year to maintain that scholarship. There are other Indiana grants that if you want to receive the maximum or full amount of the grant, you need to be an on-time student, as opposed to, let me show you, full-time. Most colleges would tell you that you just need 12 hours a semester to be a full-time student. And that may be true, but look what happens if you do that semester after semester. You're adding on an entire another year to getting that degree. What happens to a lot of people? They run out of financial aid. So they're trying to figure out how to pay for that degree, finish it with money out of their own pocket. That's why there are a lot of people who have college credits, but not a degree. So again, just that difference between being on time as opposed to full time. All right, let's talk about the money. So there's 5 sources of where money can come from to help pay for college. First would be the federal government. That's the largest provider. Next would be the state of Indiana. We do a good job. 21st Century Scholars is an example I mentioned a minute ago. The college or university or program would be another source. Private donors, that would be like a community foundation or maybe a private business. And then finally, the 5th place is you or your family. And that's really what we at Invested want to help families with, figuring out your part of that funding puzzle. And we want to help you do that or understand that sooner rather than later. So that's where the money comes from. Here's how it gets used. There's gift aid. That's the free stuff, what we like the best that we don't have to pay back. And then there's self-help aid, money that we could earn, set aside and save, or loans would be considered self-help aid as well. So let's just break down these into a little more detail, just so you understand where the money could be coming from. So again, federal grants, money from the federal government. The government sets these dollar amounts each year, and eligibility is determined by household income, or it's based on need. And really the Fafsa is what determines that. There's state aid as well. Here's what I would encourage you to do. Take a screenshot of the slide and you'll see the URL there at the bottom, investedindiana.org/grants. If you visit that page on our website, you can actually link to the state financial aid website, the federal one as well. But we want you to see that there's a whole list of Indiana state grants. These are just 3 of the most common ones that we get questions about. But I would encourage you to go to the state financial aid page and look at all of the grants that are available, what the guidelines or qualifications are for those grants, and how you apply for them. So if your student would qualify for receive a federal grant, they could take that to any school anywhere in the United States that accepts federal aid. If they qualify or receive a state grant, that has to be used at an Indiana institution. The good news is that there's just one application for all of this stuff, and it's the Fafsa. So in the senior year of high school, the first time the student submits the Fafsa, they're applying for not only federal aid, but state aid as well. All right, let's talk scholarships here for a couple minutes. So scholarships can be need-based or merit-based. Need-based means it's based on household income. Merit-based means that they're going to award that money based on performance, something the student does well, grades, test scores, GPA, maybe athletic ability, maybe they're a good writer. So they're being awarded a scholarship based on something they do well. Usually what we see is that students start looking for scholarships their senior year of high school. They graduate from high school and they quit looking. Does not work that way. It's not a once and done kind of thing. We start early as underclassmen in high school, and we continue to look and keep looking often until we get that degree or that certificate that we're pursuing. Where should we look for these scholarships? There's 3 places. First, free national search sites. Do a Google search of free college scholarship search engines, however you want to word that. Just make sure you've got the word free in there, and take a look and see what's out there. I would say the same 5 to 10 sites will pop up. Pick 1 or 2 of them, have the student get registered on there and spend some time searching for scholarships on a national level. This is where you're going to see scholarships for, say, people who are left-handed, people with red hair, people under 5 feet tall, contests, sweepstakes, things like that. So spend a little time on the national level. The next place, colleges and universities. So the colleges and universities that you are thinking about applying to your senior year of high school, you want to look at every single financial aid page of their website to see what's available. Some scholarships will be tied to your admissions application. So when you apply to the college, based on your grades or test scores, you may see that you're awarded one of their merit-based scholarships. But there can be scholarships separate from that on the financial aid site at that college. So make sure you're looking at all of them, applying for any that you can. And then once, of course, you commit to a school, you choose a school, you keep looking back each year for what's available. Next, and where the bulk of scholarships can come from, would be local and community. So staying in contact with your school counselors, probably one of the greatest resources. I know that as we travel the state and work with counselors, they have different ways of putting this information out. Sometimes it's an actual paper list in their office. Sometimes it's on their website, the guidance page, their website. Sometimes it is maybe a tool like Naviance or Canvas, depending on the kind of tool that a school might use to push this information out. Do a little research on your own, though. Know what the community foundation offers in your community. What about private businesses that offer scholarships? Employers, this is students and parents. Find out if the place you work offers scholarships, or maybe it could even be, say, tuition reimbursement benefits. Churches are another good place to research for scholarships. Also, civic organizations within communities. We call these the animal clubs, the lions, the elks, the eagles, the moose. Those places often offer scholarships to students in the community. So you want to be organized as you're looking for this free money, so that you can be efficient about it. You really need to treat it like a part-time job, spending time every week looking for scholarships. Make sure you've got a resume that details in date order any activity or things you've been involved in throughout your high school career. Keep updating and adding to it as you go. Have some sample essays written. This way you've got that done. And you don't have to come up with a brand new essay every time you apply for a scholarship that asks for one. I would say the first one would be in 250 words, tell me why you deserve this money. Have that one written out, have somebody proofread it for you and tuck it away for when you get asked that question. Another one might be a little longer, 500 to 600 words, depending on what they're asking for, that tells a story about you. So when I'm finished reading that essay, I know a little bit more about you. Balance your time. Note deadlines. This is a big one. Can't tell you how many phone calls we get each year with students that miss a deadline and want to know if there's anything that we can do to help. Be organized, pay attention to deadlines, and make sure you're meeting them. Balance your time. So this is all the different places you're looking, but it would also be the size of the scholarship. Don't skip over those $250 or $500 scholarships. It's okay to go for the big $50,000 Coca-Cola scholarship, but watch the little ones and make sure you're looking at all the different places. Have a scholarship application party. So this might sound a little corny, but here's what I would suggest you do. Get a group of your friends together, set the timer on your phone for maybe 30 minutes and have a contest and see how many scholarships you can apply for in that 30-minute time frame. It really is a numbers game. The more you apply to, the better your chances. Watch out for scams. Don't pay for scholarship searches. And just anything that you might be a little leery of, not sure if it's legitimate, email it to us. We'll take a look at it for you, let you know what we know about it. And yeah, we're happy to do that. Just what I would say the key thing there is don't pay for scholarship searches, but anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, you think might be a scam, research it or send it to us, let us know, and we'll take a look. So not all scholarships are for the students with the best grades, highest GPA. That, like I said before, there's contests and sweepstakes out there. You have to think outside the box a little bit, but just doing searches about scholarships. There is a $50,000 Coca-Cola scholarship. Take a look and see what Starbucks offers. The pictures there that you're seeing on the right, that's the duct tape yourself and go to prom. The contest is called Stuck on You. That's the 2021 winners. So those two students each won $10,000 for entering and winning that contest. Dress and tuxedo made completely out of duct tape. You can go on, look at all the entries. It'll tell you how much time it took them, how many rolls of tape. So again, there are a lot of crazy reasons out there that people are trying to give students money to help pay for college. Little plug for us, Invested gives away 5 $1,000 scholarships every year. You have to be 16 or older and live in Indiana to enter to win. That's the application right there on the slide. Takes less than 60 seconds to enter. And then every spring in February, we start and we draw 5 names until we've got 5 winners and award each student $1,000. All right, self-help aid. So the stuff I've talked about up to now is we don't have to pay it back. Self-help aid can include loans, but let's talk about some other things before loans, because the more you can do the free money or these things, the less amount you may have to borrow. Let's talk a little bit about saving. So here's what I would tell a student. If you get money for your birthday or on holidays from relatives or family, right? Put some of that money or set it aside into a college savings account. If you work a job, make sure you're taking a percentage of your paycheck and putting it in an account to save. We at Invested know about financial aid. We're financial aid experts, not financial planners per se. So if you've got specific questions or want to open some type of a college savings account, I would encourage you to seek out a financial planner to do that. These are just a couple different types of savings accounts. And what we usually tell families is if you've got a hunk of money that you're saving and setting aside maybe in a bank account, like a savings account, talk to somebody about the benefits of an actual college savings plan or savings account. See what those benefits are. See if it makes sense to move it out of just that bank account into something else. Student employment. So again, money we don't have to borrow, but money we can earn. There's a study that shows that college students who work part-time, so 20, 25 hours a week, actually are better at managing their time and have better grades than students who don't. You are building a resume, you're networking with people, gathering references, lots and lots of benefits to working while you're in school. In addition to earning money to help pay for costs. You're also getting job and interviewing experience as well. Now, something that you could be offered through the college or through financial aid is called federal work study. And it's where the college says, hey, we've set aside a certain dollar amount for you, that if you want to get a part-time job on campus, earn up to that amount of money, then you can use that towards cost. Either way, whether it's federal work study or just a part-time job, there are benefits to both. Student loans. So again, this is where a lot of people can get into trouble. We know that a lot of people will borrow money to help pay for their education, but what we want families to know are what your options are, what the different types of loans are, who's got to pay the loan back, when do we have to pay it back, what's the interest rate and how is it set? Are there fees on the loan? Do I need a cosigner? What about a credit check? Those are all things that we want you to be aware of and understand before you start borrowing money. So just want to tell you a quick story about a phone call that I got over the summer, so you can kind of understand how this family was thinking and the path they walked before they took out loans. So mom called me and she said, hey, my son is going to go to Purdue this fall, and he's going to take out the federal direct loan. That's that first loan you see there on the slide, that he can take out as a freshman. It's $5,500. Interest rate's pretty low. Doesn't have to pay it back until 6 months after he graduates. But we still need $10,000 to cover the remaining costs for the year. What are our options? So we looked at the federal direct plus loan or parent loan. It's a loan a parent can take out. They do a credit check on the parent loan where they don't do one on the student loan. There's a fee that they take out for processing the loan. Then we talked about private loans. Private loans typically don't have fees. The interest rate's going to vary because it will depend on credit score and income. There are private loans that a student can take out. They need somebody with strong credit to co-sign. There's also private loans that parents can take out. Well, in this case, mom said, we would like to keep the loans in our son's name. She said, I'm willing to co-sign. So we're going to apply for a private loan just to be able to compare the rates and the terms with that private loan to that federal direct plus loan or parent loan. So when they applied for that private loan, the interest came back at 4.02% with no fee. So as comparing it to the plus loan, it made more sense for them than to take out that private loan in the student's name, in addition to that federal direct loan of $5,500. So again, just understanding that it's asking the questions, kind of walking that path to make the wisest choice for your family if you have to borrow loans. All right, so the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the application for all that money I just talked with you about. So each year, starting the senior year of high school, you want to file the FAFSA to know what your student is eligible to receive. That includes the federal grants, the work study, loans, Indiana's, the state grants, and then institutional funds or money from the college as well. It's fafsa.gov online. There's also a mobile app called My Student Aid. The FAFSA is going to do something that calculates the amount of money that a family could potentially be expected to contribute towards cost. So what it looks at is student income and assets, parent income and assets, and then it runs it through a formula and spits out this number, this expected family contribution, or something that will soon be called the Student Aid Index, or SAI. The feds are getting ready to change those terms, so we're just trying to introduce it and let families know, to make them aware. But again, this is a number that the FAFSA calculates when you submit it, that the colleges will use to put together a financial aid offer for your student. The FAFSA opens each year on October 1st. Again, the first time we file the FAFSA is the student's senior year of high school. So on or after October 1 of the senior year, and then each year thereafter. It's going to ask for completed tax information. Here is how I would tell you to figure out what taxes you'll be using the first time you file the FAFSA your student's senior year. take the year they're going to graduate from high school, subtract 2. So if you've got a 2022 grad, you subtract 2, you're using 2020 taxes to file the FAFSA the first time this year for their senior year. And then you just add on a tax year. Now, the deadline in Indiana to file the FAFSA is April 15th. That is just a huge window of procrastination from October to April. Don't wait that long. A lot of colleges have earlier deadlines. And so for each college that you would be applying to, you want to know what their deadline is and get it in at the earliest one. But again, as long as you file the FAFSA in Indiana by April 15th, if you qualify for any of those state grants, then you would be eligible to receive them. Let's talk a little bit about managing and limiting college costs. So ways to limit college costs, you can actually start doing that now in high school. Having the student take AP and dual credit courses while they're in high school can reduce the amount of time that it actually takes them to graduate or get their college degree. And you're taking those courses for free or much less cost than you'd have to pay to take them in college. Commuting versus living on campus is another way to save money. Living on campus, room and boards, $10,000, $12,000, depending on the school. It's a great way to save some money. Taking courses over the summer, or even online courses, and again, thinking about that being an on-time student. So if by doing summer classes or online courses will help you maintain that 30 credit hours each academic year, that's a great way to limit college costs. Every college has a tool on its financial aid page or financial aid website called a net price calculator. I would encourage you to just start doing some research and looking at those tools on different colleges your students talking about. It will show you the total cost of attendance, which include all of those things there listed, minus any free money that the student could potentially qualify for. And then what's left over is the net price. And that net price is what would need to be covered by either outside scholarships, working money you've saved, or even outside private scholarships maybe. So it's just a good tool to use to start getting an idea of what different colleges might cost your family. So just want to take a look at an example of a net price calculator. So these are actual numbers from a state school here in Indiana. And again, if your student is applying for a state school like an IU, Purdue, Ball State, Indiana State, these numbers would be pretty close. So you can see it all listed out there. Our total for the year is at 27.2. And in this example, this student is receiving money from the federal government through the Pell Grant, money from the state through Franco Bannon, and then the college kicked in a scholarship. So we've got $10,995 in gift aid or free money offered so far. $16,205 is what we have left to cover, or our net price. You'll see that the student's been offered to earn up to $3,000 through federal work study, a part-time job on campus, and a $5,500 loan that's split into the subsidized portion, the $3,500, the government's going to cover the interest. The unsubsidized portion, the $2,000, interest will accrue on that part. So $8,500 in self-help aid, we've got a remaining balance of $7,705. This is a great illustration to show students why outside scholarships are so important. If the student is diligent, works hard, applies for scholarships, let's say they get $6,000 in outside scholarships, maybe from the community foundation. They just drop that remaining balance to $1,705. So again, just so that you can have a conversation with the student when you're pushing them and encouraging them to continue looking for those outside scholarships. All right, I want to wrap up here by talking a little bit about social media and how it can play into this process. We tell students they need to be professional online, and parents, I hope you're monitoring your students' social media and how they're using it. They need to be professional and wise and appropriate. The first place that starts is with their email. So make sure they've got a professional email address that they'll be using to communicate with colleges and universities, scholarship providers, and future employers. Use the social media, they need to use it to promote themselves. So if they volunteer in the community, or go on a mission trip, those are the kinds of things that they want to be posting and promoting to kind of tell their story and tell about themselves. Be mindful, again, wise and appropriate. Make sure there's nothing inappropriate on their social media or anything that could be misinterpreted. There are surveys that have been done with scholarship providers or reviewers, college admissions folks, and employers. And they're asking them, do you use social media to make decisions about giving a student a scholarship, admitting them into your college, or hiring them to work for you? And the bottom line is they do. You can see those numbers there. It's part of the process. So make sure your student understands that and that they're using their social media wisely. We do a little research on this topic each year, just looking at different headlines and actual social media posts. On the left there, that Coach Lawson, that's a Division I NCAA coach. So if you've got a student athlete, remind them that those coaches that are recruiting them are looking at their social media posts. And again, the message is just being wise and appropriate with their social media and what they're actually putting out there. So we are here to help you. Check out our website. There's a lot of great tools and resources. You can enter to win the scholarship drawing. There's actually a college planning toolbox out there. So if you don't really know where to start, this is kind of a good tool to help you in that process, kind of break it down into pieces to help with the planning part of this. You can check out our website for resources that we have, just different documents and resources that we've created to help families through the process. Connect with us on social media. This is a great way to just remind yourself that we're out there and we're happy to help. It also, we post when we're going to be at certain locations, when and where. So if you see that we're at your student's school, it is just a good reminder. So connect with us on social media. There's my team. And there's our contact information. Again, I would encourage you to maybe take a screenshot of this slide so that you've got the information handy, the phone number, the email. You can go to the website and join our mailing list, get our newsletters, anything that will help you remember that we are out here to help for free. And we'd love to talk with you. All right. No, that was a whole lot of information, but I hope it was helpful. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen and take a look at any questions that we have.
Sure, yeah, thank you so much, Susan. We don't yet have any questions in the chat, but I was going to ask, I know you mentioned that your organization does often go to schools in the area, specifically high schools. I know a couple of years ago, I was referring some students or kind of letting them know, hey, they're going to be at Shortridge. They're going to be at Crispus Attucks, on different days. Is that something y'all are still doing at this point, or is it best for families to reach out individually? Does it kind of depend on the situation? What would you recommend?
Yep. So it depends on the situation, but I would say we are in the majority of the schools within your neighborhood, either in person, face-to-face, or virtually. And so the first place you might have families start would be just going to our website and looking at our event calendar. You could kind of scroll through there. Social media is another great way, but if they're needing help quickly, they can reach out to us, call us, email us, and we can take a look and let them know when and where we're going to be.
Okay. So it's a little situationally dependent, but it sounds like families have a lot of options, which is
yes,
great.
For sure. Yep.
Awesome.
Susan, I have a question. Tremendous job. So much great information. Head swelled. So wonderfully done.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. I was curious. So obviously, we were speaking before about a lot of the families that we work with have middle schoolers, elementary, high school, kind of all over. Obviously, in middle school, you push a lot of the 21st century scholars because by the end of their 8th grade year, that's the big one, right? So post that, would you say parents, it's not too soon to start researching all this stuff freshman year? Like, what would you say is a good sort of benchmark with their child as they go through high school to sort of because this is a lot. So how do you sort of
Sure.
digest it a little bit?
Yep, it is a lot. And number one, never too soon. Cannot ever be too soon to start. And I think just starting those conversations, figuring out, what kind of path, what are we looking at here? Do you have a student that likes school, doesn't like school, just those types of things. And then the exposure, if we can have them get online and research some colleges, take them on a visit over summer, just doing things like that and exposing them to those different opportunities. If the schools or organizations that they're involved with maybe have opportunities for campus visits, things like that, doing those types of things. The scholarships, start with those national searches. Most of the time, the students can't apply for the colleges and universities or local and community until the senior year of high school. But that's why we say start with those national search sites, build the profile, answer the questions, see what types of contests and sweepstakes are out there. There are scholarships that underclassmen can apply for, and they'll simply just hold the money until you're ready to head off to school. So that's where we would suggest starting, and then just keep ramping that up and adding to it as they go through.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I loved the stories you shared personally with your children, as well as just looking up even what they want to try out and start job shadowing. And then of course, the research of the free national scholarships, what's even available, what's even out there. So that's really helpful and a good reminder, and I think a good starting point for all of us that are raising children. So great.
Yep, absolutely. Good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Susan, I know you put Invested's contact information. It was available. I certainly have your information and the PowerPoint as well. So families, if you need to get in touch, please feel free to let Nate or I know. If you lose track of the other contact information, we're happy to connect you. And then just a couple of reminders. We do have another workshop this time next week on the 20th. That's going to be with Old National Bank, and it's going to focus on home buying. So that'll be at 6:30. That will be virtual as well. And just a reminder that Starpoint Summer Camp registration starts on February 1st. I know summer feels far away, but registration for summer camp is coming up very quickly. So just wanted to note those couple of things as reminders for everyone. And just to take a moment to thank Susan again for all of that valuable information. We know it's a lot to take in, but at the same time, such valuable information that we're happy to have this recording and your contact information to check back with as people have questions. So thank you again for joining us, Susan.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, have a great night, everyone. We hope you have a great night, and we will see you all soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.